Hey, how's it going? How's it going, babe?
Good. How are you?
Good. Well, it's just you and me tonight. Adam is not joining us, so I guess we'll have to do without him. I obviously will not be as probably as fun. It'll be more informational, and we'll probably keep on track a little bit more too. But we'll see. Either way, it probably won't be very long because we always get on side tangents and stuff with him. But that's okay. That's okay. So what's been going on with you? It's been, normally we do these about every other week, and I bypassed, I think it was last week or the week before, so we're off a little bit. And then I wasn't here last time you guys did it, so it's been a minute.
The one, the last one I believe we were supposed to do was my anniversary
Oh, okay.
with my wife. So yeah, I'm old because 30 years with my wife,
Ooh,
I told you guys I wouldn't be able to do it that night, and then you
yeah,
ended up not having one anyway.
right, right.
But yeah, and life in general.
So you guys got married when you're like 12, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. It was an arranged marriage.
Hmm.
I was 6, she was 4.
Okay. Well, in some parts of the world, I guess that happens. But that's good. Congratulations. But yeah, no, we there's some things where I didn't want to force or push a live when I didn't have one ready. So we pushed it off a little bit, and here we are.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're going to talk about a couple of different things tonight, but the main thing I wanted to talk about was AI. And the reason I'm bringing it up is Ben from Arctide and I have been talking quite a bit here recently about AI. He had just come back from a conference over in Dubai, and that was the big push was AI, and the companies and even countries are everybody's on board with this, and it's the buzzword right now, and everybody's talking AI, which it's cool if you messed around with it. It's some really outrageous stuff, and it's changing the way that we do life in every aspect, and some of that's kind of scary, but it's here, and so how do we jump on board with that, and how does that benefit ASC? And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about a little bit here. So I'll get into it here real quick. One of the things that I've had conversations with, and we've talked about on here before, is how we have to make living and working underwater a profitable experience. So how do we do that? Some people, so far it's been all scientific research for the most part, and that doesn't necessarily have to be profitable since it's usually nonprofits and governments and stuff doing that work. But when we start looking at like hotels and resorts, can that be a profitable endeavor? Because you're going to charge a premium to recoup your money, or it's going to be a long time recouping it, or you have to build cheap, and that's not good either. So it's one of those things where how do you make money in that? Is there enough people out there that pay for it too? The other thing is undersea mining. The idea of like preppers with like underwater fallout shelters and stuff, which is kind of very fringe. But once again, there's a big market for that aspect alone too. So it's one of those things where those are some of the things. I don't know, babe, if you got some other ideas on different avenues where people have talked about where underwater habitats could generate some sort of income from.
The one I heard was an underwater vault system. And the reason it came up was private security for shipping, for pirates. They, before they go into certain parts,
That's what you're saying.
like a country that doesn't allow the guns and stuff,
Yeah.
then they have a waylay. They have a stop. That's their cutoff point. They're not allowed to go past that with weapons, and so they have boats they store them on, and then they're like, well, it'd be a lot easier if we could just put it underwater. Than first of all, they'd have to find it, and then they'd have to figure out how to get it, if they wanted the guns bad enough.
Which I guess goes back, hundreds of years back to buried treasure. I mean, why would they bury the treasure and stuff like that, to prevent other people from finding it? So basically it's a 21st century buried treasure scenario there. But yeah, I never thought about that, honestly. And like I said, the one thing with a lot of these is these are things that could always be floating with an underwater aspect to them. Some of the stuff, the more underwater, the better. And something like that, obviously, that would be one of them. But the one that has always been maybe a little biased on my part was underwater data centers, just because data is always growing. My background's in IT, and it's one of those things where that's not going anywhere, and it's just growing at exponential rate with cloud computing, and now with AI coming into the thing, that's even more and more intensive computing as well. That means it generates more heat, more electricity, and at the same time, you're definitely going to be concerned about your security and all these different things. We'll talk about a little bit here about how I believe, and other people out there as well, believe that underwater data centers may be the answer to that. Real quickly, I'll recap, because we have talked about underwater data centers and stuff in the past. I don't want this all to be about underwater data centers, but really they kind of go hand in hand, this conversation here. So I'll recap kind of what we've talked about in the past and some of the things, like, for example, when you're dealing with information latency, which is basically the speed it gets from the computers to your house, is key. That's why you have people who like day trade on the stock market and stuff. They are as close to the source of the servers as possible, because that fraction of a nanosecond sometimes makes a difference in hundreds of millions of dollars changing hands there. So the closer to the servers you can be, the better. Even for gamers, they know that the lower the ping, the better they're going to be at shooting, moving, etc. So, and then when you start getting with AI and stuff along those lines, it's all speed, it's all data. So 40% of the world's population lives within 60 miles of the ocean. 30% of Americans live in coastal regions. So there's already an untapped huge market that's close to the ocean anyway. Some of the benefits, real quick, to why we would look at underwater versus land is quick deployment. When you have a land-based anything, when you're trying to build out anything, you've got zoning, you've got the land you got to pay for, you've got all of that has to come into place. You have to take care of that, versus underwater, where you build it, you stick it out there, you sink it, and it's down. Now you've got obviously the red tape up front of putting it underwater and stuff like that, which has not been a huge deal as of right now. I'm sure that will change in the future once these start taking off more and more. But that's one thing is when Microsoft, which we'll talk about a little bit, they built a data center and put it out in the water. They were able to do it in 90 days, I believe is what it was. Versus if you were to say, hey, I need a new data center, it's going to take 18 months at minimum to get it up and running. So obviously it's not apples and apples because it's the size and scale, but it's just showing how quickly you could deploy a data server really fast if you needed to, especially with some of these small startups that are out there right now. Some other stuff is the argument that may be more secure to put it underwater because you have no access to it. It's going to be harder to get to. It's going to be harder to infiltrate physically than it would be a land-based one. Also, the other thing is the immunity to most natural disasters. If you're deep enough, nothing's going to bother you pretty much. An earthquake maybe, but you don't have to worry about all the tornadoes, hurricanes, volcanoes. I mean, well, I don't know, all the most man-made, not man-made, but the stuff you have to deal with on land, but also some non-natural stuff too. One of the things nice about water is it's an EMP barrier, and that's not something we talk about a lot, but you can build natural EMPs barriers and stuff in buildings and stuff like that, but that's always a concern, especially we talk about here in the United States every once in a while about the concern of an EMP attack and what that would do to our infrastructure. Well, at the same time, if you've already got a built-in one with the water, that's another selling point, I guess you could say, on why to move that way. Also, energy cost savings, because you're able to use the surrounding cooler ocean waters to cool your habitat, your data center, what it may be. So all those pros add into why underwater data centers are attractive, and why this may be a viable future in a productive, in a what's the word I'm looking for? I drew a blank. Makes money for the company. What's the word I'm looking for?
Profitable.
Yes, that's the word. The P word. Yes, profitable.
Yeah.
Profitable endeavor. Thank you. Brain fart there. You got anything to add to that, babe? Before I carry on to the cons.
Well, I'm just thinking of efficiency things because I'm going to use the ASC model just because that's what we're trying to do. But when it comes to changing that stuff out, if you have a system that is the same, so everything you drop and pull is the same, and if you're using those freight container style, then you have everything ready to jam in one of those and sink it. You pull the old one up, or if you're just changing stuff, whatever it is, then you've made it efficient, and efficient is going to cut down costs of it. So that's where my mind went when you're talking about it, is how to logistically make it efficient, quick, easy changes, because that stuff's going to happen.
Yeah. And when we talk about, I'm going to touch on that here in a second, because some of the cons that have come up about that is that just the fact that the ocean in and of itself is a harsh environment, and trying to do anything there is extremely difficult usually. So obviously it's been done. Microsoft has done it, and we'll talk about some other places that have done it or attempting to do it. But the other thing is access to the servers, like you were just talking about. That's been a complaint because with Microsoft, all the ones out there that are either in the water, have been in the water, or projected to go in the water, they're contained. It's like you put the whole server in there, you sink it down, and it's there until you pull it out, which then pulling out becomes an issue. And we'll talk about South Korea because they've got a design that's different, that is very kind of similar to what you were talking about. But also, if you can find a way of raising and lowering that habitat, which is what we've also talked about, is one of the things we want to test as a way of raising and lowering those habitats in an effective manner, that can solve that as well. Or have people actually down there working on it. Microsoft, like I said, they had a project called Project Natick, which they did 2 years of testing pretty much underwater. They had, in the last phase of it, they had 864 servers running, and they're actually running real applications on it. This is off the coast of Ireland, I believe it was. And what they found is that because it was enclosed and they were running gases in there, which had no oxygen in there, which was non-corrosive, and there was no human contact to any of the servers, they had one eighth the fail rate of standard traditional servers on land. So the argument's going to be, well, you don't want to touch the servers then, and that may be, but if you are, depending on what you're doing, as technology is changing rapidly, you may want to have that access. China, on the other hand, has already deployed a data server off in China as well. They hopped on board and have been sort of working on this last year, and it's finally up and running, supposedly, from what I'm reading. The information is very limited on it, but what they said, and this may be a translational issue, but they said it's what they have running right now is equivalent to 60,000 computers. Now, I don't know how they factor that in as far as why not saying this, how many servers like Microsoft did, but it could once again be a Chinese to English translation in the paperwork there. They've got theirs at about 115 feet underwater, so not super deep, but deep enough. And they're saying that with the information they're learning from this, they're planning to drop 100 more just like this in the area to expand that out. Yeah, so they're all on board with this. And then another one is South Korea has proposed an underwater habitat. It's very similar to what ASC has been looking at doing, where it's got different modules. And one module is a data center module. They have like a life support module, and like a living module. So for the benefit of being able to work on those servers in real time as well, which yes, obviously Microsoft found some benefits to doing it with non-corrosive gases and no human contact. but I also think there is some benefit to being able to actually physically get to it and work on it if need be, especially if this is something that's going to grow and move down the road. And then, like you said, if you're able to easily switch that out by detaching it, bring it to the surface, and bringing a new one down or expanding out, that may be a benefit as well. And there's other companies too. There's a company here, it's called Subsea Cloud, I think, in the United States, that their whole focus is underwater data centers as well. So this isn't just something that ASC is like, all right, we think this sounds like a great idea. This is something, before I even knew Microsoft was doing this a couple of years ago, it was one of the things where I said, hey, this would be a good idea. And I was like, oh, crap, Microsoft is actually doing this. Very cool. Let's see what happens. And so it's one of those confirmation type of things. And when I was talking to Ben from Arctide, we were talking about AI and underwater data centers and stuff like that. And it was another confirmation that this may be the best route to a profitable company at this point in time is underwater data centers. And right now, as I was researching this to catch myself back up on new news coming out about this, there's tons of articles out there saying, hey, is this the future? Is this really stuff like that? So like I said, it's not some fly-by-night type of thing. People are sinking tons of money into underwater data centers or the idea of them already. Got anything to throw in there, babe?
Oh, my mind's still spinning with the thoughts about the South Korean, because you're already working with gases, so why can't I mean, I'm sure they're already thinking of it too, but have those non-corrosive gases in there until you need to go in there, and then you vent it out.
I thought about that too. Yep.
Or an airlock system where you're already depending what the gas is, as long as it it's something you can come in contact with, just not breathing it.
Right.
You're already in an environment that requires you to have something to breathe otherwise.
Yeah.
So throw your stuff on and go in, whichever is the easier way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we start talking about this, people may be, okay, that's cool and stuff, but how big of a market, especially from the AI base, are we talking here as far as when we're talking about profitability? How much money is actually out there? So I looked up. There's on some websites for the AI alone. I left the whole data server aspect out of there. Actually, I did. Sorry, I got the notes in front of me, and I have both of them there. Never mind. But for the AI market, for the global AI market, is expected to hit 184 billion this year in 2024, and there's projecting by the year 2030 that to hit 826 billion. So I mean that's an crazy amount of growth over the next 6 years. Meanwhile, the AI market just here in the United States for this year is supposed to be 50 billion. So a considerable amount of that. Now, as far as the data server market, it's different, and the numbers don't really line up. So I'm not sure how they factor some of this in here, but the data server market in 2024 globally is 197.8 billion. So just slightly bigger than the AI market. They didn't have to 2030. They only had till 2028, but they're showing 438.7 billion in data server market. So they're showing the data server market is not growing as fast as the AI market. So I thought that was interesting. But it doesn't have to be 1-to-1, because doesn't necessarily mean hardware. When a lot of that is software based, especially if you're making your software more efficient with the existing hardware and stuff too. But the U.S. market for data servers, data centers in 2024 is $99.16 billion. So yeah, if ASC could get 10% or 1% even of that market, as far as for something like that, it'd be huge. I mean, that's a lot of money right there, especially for a market that's growing as fast as it is. So there's definitely money out there, and companies are throwing money at this hand over fist to be the biggest and the first. In fact, I just saw an article, I think it's this last week, that came out that Amazon is spending $11 billion in South Bend, Indiana, to build an only AI data center.
Yep.
So it's like, holy cow. So yeah, it's crazy. And I think the one thing I'm talking about, South Bend there is we've been talking about ocean-based this whole entire time, but it doesn't have to be ocean-based. It can be any water-based. With
Yeah.
South Bend being right there by the Chicago area, they could be using it. You could just move it and drop it in the Great Lakes. You drop it in Lake Michigan right there, which is super cool water. So it's definitely going to cool your stuff. But you could have it in a lake. You could even have a man-made body of water and drop it. Let's say we'll use a shipping container, for example, because that's usually about the size of what's been used so far in the water. So that's what you're looking at for, like say, Microsoft's was 864 servers inside this thing. So, there's definitely ways of doing this, and I think a cost-effective ways of doing it too that would definitely benefit, especially as there are so many businesses out there, companies out there, and startups too. There's lots of startups. One of the things I've been doing here recently is looking at startups and looking at different AI leaders out there and trying to contact them about this and being like, hey, here's what we're doing. How can we work with you? How can we make this happen? To jump on board this and to put our name out there and start making those communications with these people. And just a short list of them, are companies like NVIDIA, who's big on, people really talk about the AI space, but they're very big in the data center and stuff like that. X, which we're on, and we have several people watching us on X tonight. Amazon, Microsoft, who owns now ChatGPT, is one of the leaders in that. Tesla, Apple, Google, and hundreds of different startups out there. All these people are vying for the best in AI, the biggest in AI, and they're going crazy with it. So anything they can do to cut costs and security for their platform, I think they're trying to look at right now. And so does underwater data centers meet that bill for them? And that's kind of where we're at. And then just throwing this out there on the whole fringe aspect of the thing, which some people talked about too. You can do what you want with it, but if you drop your data centers off in international waters, at that point in time, you can pretty much, the data is, you can do what you want with it. At that point in time, it's not up to laws and stuff along those lines. So you can have some crazy stuff on there. A lot of that is good. Obviously, with the good comes the bad. But there's something about that freedom of information that could be out there in international waters for whatever reason. You sync it, you got satellite service, Starlink or whatever you may be, sending your stream out to whomever. It may not be the fastest, but it's going to be some interesting data out there. So that's basically most of the notes I had for this was. Because there's not tons out there on this, because like I said, there's only a couple of companies that have done this, and we've talked about it. And actually, when you Google underwater data centers on YouTube and stuff like that, usually we come up in the list as far as one of the people that have been reporting on it, because we've got several videos out on there. One of our best videos ever has been about underwater data centers, most viewed videos that is. So yeah, there's a lot to be said about that. There's a lot to think about this, and I think this is definitely the route to be pursuing and to be throwing some money behind and some guidance behind.
Yeah.
Now you got for me, babe? You got me a yeah? That's all you got? Okay. Well, no, like I said, I knew this wasn't going to be a in-depth. Not in-depth is not the right word, because it is pretty in-depth as far as the information and stuff that we were able to find on that. But like I said, the problem was, especially when I was researching the China one, is it's China, so there isn't much information out there on it. Microsoft, they wrapped theirs up years ago. That was a recent article asking if they're going to pursue it again. It was a vague answer to if they're going to try to do more of them. Microsoft is just experimenting with different avenues of data servers, and that was just one of them. So, and actually, go ahead.
As the data server market will have to catch up with AI. AI is just growing so fast right now because everyone knows they need to get a good bite on it, so it doesn't get away from them. So right now, that's not the servers aren't the focus. So when they need those servers, then they're going to be the focus.
Yeah. And there's companies like Amazon with their AWS and stuff like that are counting on that. And that's why they're, building these large data servers, because right now a lot of these startups are using either Microsoft Azure or Amazon's AWS to host this information. But at the end of the day, who's really benefiting from this is Amazon. And eventually people are going to want the privacy and the security of that data where they can control it more and not be dependent upon a third party to host and house their data. It's all about control. It's always about control, and it's all about bottom dollar too. So you factor those two things in. Is if there's a way that ASC can make cost effective, and not everything needs to be cost effective, but or cheap, I guess, but quality underwater habitats that we can deploy quickly on a cookie cutter style to get those in and that are out there. I think that's really the goal that we're going to be focusing on right now. I thought I was going to say something else about that, but I think that's good. So anyway, like I said, I knew this wouldn't be as long of an episode tonight, and so for the people watching, definitely, I don't know if with X if people can comment in here. I think they can, and I think we can see them in here. So if there's any questions, I'll definitely try to answer them. If not, after the fact, because this will be obviously on YouTube and Facebook, and I'll chop this up into shorts and reels and stuff like that too. So it's definitely something I'm going to be talking about. That's what I was going to say. Even on our podcast, on the shorts this last week was about this topic, and the week before, and it's going to be a trend I'm going to be writing here for the next couple of weeks, maybe even months going into summer here. Is data centers, and just everything around it right now. So hopping on that for right now. So if that's not something you're interested in, hey, let me know. We can always talk about other stuff. I'm not opposed to that, because there's a lot out there, a lot of cool stuff that's always going on in the world of underwater habitats and just the ocean in general.
Well, that's a good segue. This weekend, and I made myself mad now. I started to look it up earlier and got sidetracked. It doesn't matter. This weekend in Florida, so I'm gonna have to look it up, because this is the second year of it. So they're planning on making an annual thing. It's a cleanup, like a shore cleanup and underwater cleanup, and they gave away, they being all the different businesses together, dive charter businesses, gave away almost 1,000 free spots on their charter boats. But that's the catch. You get to go diving, but the catch is if you see trash, you be sure to make an extra point to clean it up, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, man, I want to see if I can get into that next year, because if they're giving away that many every year, then I want to see if I can get into that, because I do it anyways. But if it's, what can I say? If I can get it for free too, I'd do it. Especially do it.
Yeah, and can you hear that?
Yeah.
It's freaking Google. It got set up one time. I can't get. It's got some nighttime thing on there. It wants me to do all this stuff at night. I don't know how. I turn it back on, thinking maybe I fixed it, but it's not fixed. So it's not just yelling at me in the background. But yeah, no. And also talking about different stuff going on in Florida is that what is it? The coming up in a couple months, that event that I was asking you if you're about the other day. I should have had that pulled up here. Who was it? Well, give me 1 second. I'll pull it up right now.
Man in the Sea Museum.
Well, yeah, it was like the
where
events here. The Heroes Banquet for the Sea Lab at Aquanauts. That's what it was. Yeah. That's coming up here in July 19th. I don't know. That might be something. I don't know if you're going to be able to go to it, if you want to go to it. But
I want to go to it.
That might be something we have to look at here as well. Just different things to get involved with, and like that. Anything I know, Fabian Cousteau and his organization has done beach cleanups and stuff in the past as well.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, if stuff like that's going on, it'd be fun to be involved with that stuff more and more.
Yeah.
Regardless if it does anything for ASC, but just to be out there doing stuff like that. Obviously, at the end of the day, we always want to try to drive it back and help ASC to move this along. But we love the ocean, or we wouldn't be here doing this type of stuff. And whatever we can do to help that out, I think is great. And anything you guys can do out there as well that you guys can do to help out. If there's something going on, we'd love to hear about it, especially if it's something that we know we could attend or go to. Yeah, it'd be cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't have tons of money to just be driving all around the United States going to stuff, but if we're able to make it, I think it'd be nice to try. It's one of the things where meet up with some people and say, hey. So yeah, let us know. You never know what's going to happen. You never know unless you ask.
Yeah. Well, that's what it was. I was looking up today, and one of the doctors I worked with, she come in and she asked me about it, and someone else said, yeah, he dives. Anyways, she was asking me about it, and she said, well, what are you doing here? You should be in South Florida. She says her dad's in South Florida, and like once a month, he does this thing where he goes in with his dive group, and they go like to different places and just clean up trash. That's what they do. Is like a handful of them. Then that's like
cool.
One of the things they do. Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's kill two birds with one stone. You get some diving in, and so
yeah, interesting.
Anyway, all you people out there, because they keeps on growing out there, the number. As I was saying, if you got questions, great. If not, you're just here to consume information, even better. As we were talking at the beginning, Babe and I we're both wearing swag today. He's got his there, and I've got the hoodie on. Let's turn the right way here. ASC Colony hoodie. It's not a very thick one, but I like it. It's nice and comfortable. Here's the deal. The store is down. I took the store down off the website. And the reason for that was I'm wanting to transition over to a new store, and that's got better. And this is what this comes from: better quality. Not better quality, but more selection, and stuff that I'm more passionate about. So I took the old store down as I'm transitioning us over to the new store. So there is no merch available at this time, unless you're a Patreon member. And then I'll send the link out there for you. If you guys want something, I'll definitely hook you up and help you get that. So if you're wanting some merch in the foreseeable future till I figure out the new store, let me know, because that's the only way you're going to get it. And we got some cool stuff out there too. I got my dad, who's also a Patreon member, a cool hat. It's just the ASC hat, but it's got the strap in the back. It's not like the plastic ones. It's actually really, I was impressed at how nice condition it is. And I got the sleeveless Aquanaut t-shirt for working out and stuff like that.
That's one of my favorites.
My niece actually hated it. She saw me. She's like, "What are you wearing that? Are you serious?" or something along those lines. I was like, "What?" I go, "What's your big deal with it, girl?" She was appalled that I wear it. Whatever.
They're really comfortable. That's like really one of my favorite shirts.
It was thinner. So I have the other one from the first store, and I like it. It's a heavier stuff, but this is like super light and super thin. So. Which is probably the one you got from the older store, which is they're both super comfortable. Yeah. The one thing I will say about I like the first store better is it's longer. I like that, but minor detail. But one thing that comes with all these changes is where am I at here? The website. So I know you guys have talked about it in the past. But I recently updated the website. We've got some stuff going on here. You can check that out. Our vision. Underwater habitats. I'm not saying if you go to underwater habitats now, you click on it, it gives it the 4 basic breakdowns of what we got here. But really, the big changes here are the resources. It's all the same resources before, but we just did a drop down on it to kind of so it's not, you're not overwhelmed with the information when you first click on here. Also, we've got YouTube embedded here. So, yes, please subscribe to our YouTube, but you can also find them real quick right here as well. Same thing with podcast. You can listen to the most recent podcast here, which is the short from this last Monday. team, get involved thing where it talks about, if you're an investor, we're always looking for volunteers, people to help us do what we do, whether that's on here helping, with the live stream. If you're a graphic designer, whether you're, there is almost nothing out there that you do as a hobby or something like that we can't use that skill set to further what we're doing. There's a lot of stuff we want to do. I'd love to be able to do. It's just a time thing and, a skill set type of thing. And as much as I freelance out a bunch of what we do to different people, if we have people that have those skill sets, I'd much rather invest money-wise into people who have those skill sets in the community that are passionate about what they're doing, to move things forward that way. So if that is you, please shoot me a message on any of the social medias, or what have you, because there's a lot of stuff we want to do, and I need your help. So that's the new website. Check it out. So I try to streamline down the information as much as possible. I've reworked a lot of it to make it better, in my opinion. I'm never happy with it. I already don't like it. It needs to be changed. But, I don't be throwing a fit as soon as he hears me say that. But that's what it is. So with that being said, I think that about does it for this evening, I believe. Babe, did you have any closing thoughts or anything that you felt that we maybe should discuss a little bit more in depth that we haven't talked about in a while?
Oh, not right now.
Okay.
There's things we'll discuss, just not right now.
Fair enough. But yeah, it's one of the things where ASC, especially when it comes to underwater habitats, we look at stuff other people out there are doing, whether it's Fabian Cousteau and his Proteus platform or Deep in their Sentinel program, both of which have been getting a lot of notoriety here recently. And there's other people out there that they're always talking about their underwater habitats and stuff along those lines. At the end of the day, it's a big ocean. There's lots of space out there for us all to do this together and work together and stuff. Do I have doubts in some of these bigger ones? Yeah, just because I know how hard it is to do one even on a small scale. But fortunately, whether it's Fabian or Deep and stuff like that, they have a lot of backers and a lot going for them to be able to pursue this. And if anybody, a big one like that, it's going to take a lot of money. And it's not really the path we're choosing to go down with going huge first like that. All more about laying the foundation and working our way up to it than starting out big. But at the same time, those investors and stuff like to see big, and that's something I've learned, over the past couple of years, is talking to investors is thinking being realistic is not the way to go. Which is very counterintuitive. So I'm going to go off my soapbox for a couple of minutes about investors. So if investors are watching out there, it's taken me a while. I've talked to quite a few over the years about this and learned something each time. But the one thing I've learned is that if you're not asking for like $5-10 million, they're not even going to look at you, which is like, that's crazy. It's like, I didn't feel that for what we're trying to do at the very beginning, we didn't need that much money. Obviously $5-10 million would totally change everything. And it would put us in a great place, but it's just not what I thought. It's like, you don't ask for tons of money up front, but I guess you do. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Lesson learned, I guess, type of thing. But so that being said, these underwater habitats like Fabian's for several $100 million out there, and I'm sure the Deep, same thing. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of work, but it's going to happen, and we're pushing forward as well as we can with the resources we have to be able to do it. Like I said, I'm been planning like a little makeshift underwater habitat that I'm trying to get built this year still to test all the shelves and stuff. It's just a small one. It's not even like a scale version of it, but just to show off kind of what we're trying to work on and trying to do here. So hopefully that all comes here pretty soon as well. So if anybody has some skill sets in there that they would love to help out with, I'm all ears. You know how to find us. You know how to find all of us. Just social media, and I answer all the social media stuff. So I will see it. I will see your comments. I'll see your questions. I'll see your posts. With that being said, I think it's time to slowly wrap it up. So like I said, AtlantaCalling.com, that's the website I just showed you. Check us out. You can find everything there, all of our social media, all of our images. Even though we live pretty much on Facebook for the most part, I'm trying to use X and LinkedIn more and more. But yeah, so most of our content, most of our followers are on Facebook. But yeah, also we have Discord, and if that's another great place. It's not as active as it used to be, but we are constantly getting new people in almost on a daily basis. Still here recently, people have been coming in and joining. So it's a nice private, group of people where we can talk about these different things. We've got different groups set up for almost every aspect there is when it comes to the ocean in there. So if there's some aspect about the ocean you're interested in, we've probably got a subgroup for it. And if not, we can always make one. But come join us, hang out and chat, and we'll see what happens. The other thing, obviously, we talked about is Patreon. Patreon is the platform where you can help fund us, our day-to-day operations as far as paying for software like this, helping for different events, helping for building this little mini habitat that I'm getting ready to build, just different aspects like that. That's where that comes into play. And we've been having in our business meetings different ideas on how to make that more attractive to people as well. But right now there's different tiers. One's $5 a month. I mean, you can't go to Starbucks for $5 anymore. So it's one of those things where there's that, but we have different tiers in there. Definitely check that out. And in our Patreons, which obviously you guys are our heart and soul here, is Brian, Matthew, Martin, Babe, of course, Adam, and then my dad, Ron. You guys are, most of you have been with us for quite a while, and I definitely appreciate it. I feel sometimes that we haven't done enough to get your guys' support, but I do appreciate it. And obviously the last thing to do is our podcast, which is Colonize the Ocean Podcast. Go check that out. Like I said, I put out shorts every week, just usually about 5-6 minute little clips talking about stuff. And then obviously this here will become a podcast as well. And with that being said, I think that pretty much wraps it up for this evening.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, if you're coming in this late, I know some people come in and out during the thing. You can go back and watch it. I will be chopping it up into shorts they'll be coming out over the next week and stuff along those lines too. If you have stuff that you want to know or more information, I want to once again say, shoot me a message, shoot us a message, when we will get back to you ASAP. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and we will talk to you soon.